So this is going to be the highest level of work that we're going to do with exponential functions in this unit. Being successful today is going to rely on you knowing all the basic level stuff that we've been talking about for the past 3 weeks. And it was good because in our homework Q&A a minute ago, we had a chance to review what those exponential functions look like and what the two numbers inside of them were. So we'll be falling back on that today. So here's the basic idea. I am going to give you 2 points, and I need you to come up with an exponential function that would fit those 2 points. So let me start with this example here. So let's just write example 1. And my 2 points are 3, 162 and 4, 243. So please write those down. And I got a couple questions I'm going to ask you to get us started here. First question is, are we looking at an exponential function that is increasing or decreasing? So think that over for a minute. I don't want you to shout out answers. But think it over for a minute, look at those numbers and see if you can figure out, is this exponential function going to be increasing or decreasing? What do you think? Anybody want to weigh in? What do you think, Caden? You think it's increasing? Anybody want to agree? Anybody want to give me a reason why you think it's increasing? Sell me on it. What do you think, Caden? The numbers in the X and Y are all above 0. That's true. There's no decimals in front of them. Okay. That is true. That's not necessarily going to always guarantee that it's increasing, though. So the Y values are both positive, but I could make these negative numbers and it would still be increasing, although we haven't seen anything like that yet. So you're correct. In terms of what we've seen so far, give me another reason. Ooh, you're looking for a multiplier already? And you got a multiplier bigger than 1? When you say you're dividing, it means you must be looking for a multiplier. So you were looking at the Y coordinates to get a multiplier and you got something bigger than 1. So you think it's increasing because of that? I agree. If I look at these 2 points, if I go from 3 to 4 on the X, look at my Y's. Aren't my Y's going up? From 162 to 243, it's definitely going up. This is definitely an increasing function because my Y values are getting bigger. And I love that you've already made that connection because that was going to be my second question, is what does that tell us about our equation? What does that tell us about our equation? If it's increasing, what do we know for sure about our equation? It means the multiplier, which is B, is bigger than 1. And remember, B is our multiplier. I'm super glad that you're remembering that fact. The multiplier is bigger than 1, that means it's increasing. Well, we know it's increasing, so the multiplier must be bigger than 1. So the next thing I'm going to try and get you to do is write an equation for this. Now, we have not seen a problem like this before where we turned 2 points into an equation, but we saw problems where we turned graphs and situations and tables into equations. If you could choose one of those 3 things, which one would you prefer? Do you like problems where I give you the graph, problems where I give you a situation, or problems where I give you the table best? Do you like tables? Anybody else like tables? Anybody else want to go a different direction? I personally think tables are the easiest. Let's turn this into a table. I think we can turn this problem that they gave us into a table, and that might make it easier for us to figure out a solution. So if in your own notes, could you please set up an XY table for me, please? What value of X do we want to make sure we get in here? Which one are we going to need for our equation? 0. We need 0 to be in here. So why don't we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4? I think we could go higher than that, but I'm specifically stopping at 4 for a reason. Because we should be able to put some y values into our table here, shouldn't we? Where's the 162 going to go? Where's the 162 going to go? Is it going to go next to the 0? No, it's going to go next to the 3, right? Put the 162 next to the 3. Where's the 243 going to go? Next to the 4. Awesome. What I'm asking you guys to do right now is to write me an equation. This is going to be an exponential function. So we talked about this while we were reviewing our homework questions today. Should look like this. This should be our starting value. This should be our multiplier. See what you can find. I'm going to tell you that there is one of these that everybody in this room should be able to find pretty quickly. One of these two numbers everybody should be able to find pretty quickly. The other one you're going to have to do a little bit of work for. So see what you can find. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I'll come around and give you some hints. Let me know if you have any questions during that time. Folks, were we able to come back to 0? How did you do it? How did you work your way backwards? Divide? So working backwards instead of multiplying, you were dividing it. And did you have to divide 3 separate times to get there? That's kind of a pain, isn't it? Divide by 1.5, divide by 1.5, divide by 1.5. Really, if I'm only interested in this, did anybody come up with a shortcut so I didn't have to type 3 separate things in the calculator? Were you able to get it all in one? What did you do? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You just kept dividing by 1.5. So that's my question, though. If I didn't want to have to divide by 1.5 3 times, which that's not that big of a deal, right? I want you guys to think about this. So what happens when we go to do a problem like this, and instead of it being 3 steps, what if it's 40 steps to get back? You know what I'm saying? What if this wasn't 3 and 4? What if it was 33 and 34? You wouldn't want to have to sit there and go divide by 1.5 30 times to get back to 0. So what's a shorter way we could do that? Change the little x, yeah. So what I could do instead, let me show you the shortcut because this is going to save you some time, some of you, when we go forward. I could do it all at once. Instead of dividing by 1.5 3 times, I could divide by 1.5 to the 3rd power, right? Cubed. And that would get me back to 0. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. But I'll show you that it works. I'm going to do 162 divided by 1.5 to the 3rd power. I got the 3rd power because I'm doing it 3 times here. Oh, what button to get? What button to push? On this calculator, it's a little upside down V looking thing. On the calculator that's next to you, it should look very similar to that. It might be on the other side of the calculator, though. So that little upside down V means make that an exponent. That's if they're just asking for the starting point. Right. That's if all we need is a starting point, that'll work. But see, if we're asking more than that, then we still have to input to get those other figures. Exactly. That's an excellent point. Thank you for that. So if all I need is this starting point, that shortcut will get me there, but that doesn't help me fill in the rest of the table. That's just as much work. Right. So if they had asked us to fill in the whole table, then yes, then we're going to have to do it the long way. Either way, we end up with 48 here. Okay, folks, you did great with that one. The next one's a bit of a challenge, but I believe in you. Okay. So let me write down the 2 points that we're going to do for example 2. And remember our first step in the last one was that we created a table to match it. I'd like you to do that again for the next one. But your 2 points that you're going to use in this next one are going to be, let's see here, 0, 12 and 3, 768. The ultimate goal is the same as the last problem. I would love for you to write me an equation for this exponential function. We know what that format looks like. We know what those pieces are. If you can't remember, you've got some notes up in the previous example. And remember what we did in the last one. A lot of you said that you preferred to be looking at a table to help you write the equation. Well, if that's the case for you too, if that's your preference, draw yourself a table. Now, I will tell you, for those of you who are feeling pretty strong about this, there is a way to go straight from these points to the answer without making a table. So if you're up for a little extra challenge, feel free to try that. But if you're stuck at all, I would fall back on make a table just like we did in our last problem. Okay, give you a couple of minutes to try that out. Talk to the folks around you if you need a hint or get my attention. Okay, so a lot of you chose to go ahead and use the table as an assist, and I think that's a smart move. I'm the same way. For the 5 or 6 of you that kind of said tables my favorite, I agree with you. The thing that made me really happy was almost everybody that I looked at was able to come up with one of these two numbers really quickly. That's great. So we were able to recognize that that 12 was an important number, that did go in the equation. And even before tackling the other piece, I saw a lot of people had that 12 in there. So thank you for that. So the trick to this is figuring out what this B value is. B is our multiplier. Agreed? A lot of you were able to get it using guess and check, which is a great strategy that comes up a lot in math. It's a way for you to kind of like, I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but let me try some things and see what's going on. And so I talked to some of you who tried 2 and that was too low, and then you tried some bigger things. I talked to one person that started with 8 and that was too high, and you tried some smaller things and you kind of zeroed in on it. That's great. I want to show you guys how you can come up with the multiplier without having to guess and check, because that could get troublesome if you had some bigger problems. So here's the deal. The big key is to recognize that we would have to make how many steps to get from 12 to 768? How many steps are that? Would you agree that's 3 steps? We're going to be multiplying by whatever B is. I'm just going to write times B here 3 times. And we talked about this kind of with the shortcut that I gave you a minute ago. What is a shortcut for saying times B times B times B? I could say B to the power of 3, right? That's what this whole thing would be. It would be B to the power of 3. Are you guys following me here? All right, so then here's the big move, and I want to see if anybody came up with this number. Did anybody come up with a number that would get you from 12 to 768 in 1 step instead of 3? If you have your calculator in front of you, could you tell me what one big multiplier could I multiply by to get from 12 to 768? Can you put that? Oh, you're using calculator? I've got one. Hayden's got one that you can share there. So go ahead and put the phone away, please. 64. How'd you come up with that 64? You did 768 divided by 12, the same way that we normally do, right? Except they're not back to back this time. It's 3 steps. So that 64 tells us what we would get if we were to multiply B times B times B together. In other words, B to the 3rd power is equal to 64. Can I get everybody in the room to please write this equation down on your paper? This is kind of the key to doing this algebraically. B to the 3rd is equal to 64. Write it down, and then I want you to look at your notes, look at my notes, and see if you can understand where I got this equation from. Make sure you're confident with that. I would love for someone to ask me a question. I'm going to tell you that that equation came from right there on my paper, right here. B to the 3rd equals 64. I'm going to show you a new tool today, folks, a new tool for solving equations. You all are comfortable with how to use multiplication, division, addition, subtraction to solve equations. Do you know how to get rid of an exponent? Question? Answer. Yep, that works, but I need you to be able to work it algebraically, because that 4 was kind of a guess and check. So I need you to be able to do it this way too, okay? Because it's not always going to be a nice number like 4. It might come out to be like 3.26. So I need you to be able to do it this way too. So do you understand how I wrote this equation? I had 3 steps, right? Between 12 and 768, there's 3 steps there. Each time I'm going to multiply by b, whatever it is. So if I multiply b times itself 3 times, that would be the same as multiplying by 64, because that 64 gets me from 12 to 768. Do you see how I'm getting this equation? Okay, you think so? We'll check you on the next one, okay? All right, now let me show you how to solve this. This is the key, okay? We can solve to get rid of exponents. To get this b by myself, I need to get rid of this exponent of 3. And we can do that by taking a root. So roots and exponents cancel each other out. But a square root only cancels an exponent of 2. I don't want a square root. This is a square root. I need a root that matches my exponent. So I need a third root. So there's such a thing as a third root, and a fourth root, 7th root, 42nd root. And like everything else in algebra, we have to do the same thing on both sides of our equation. So I'm also going to do a third root of 64. All right, so when I do this, the third root and the exponent of 3 are going to cancel, and I'm just going to get b equals, and then I can use my calculator to figure out what the third root of 64 is. Does anybody have any guess what the third root of 64 is? It's 4. We know that b is 4. We already figured that out, right? Can you please type in the third root of 64 in your calculator and make sure you're getting 4? I'm going to show you how to do it on the yellow ones. Sage, can I borrow yours? Thank you. On the yellow ones, if you're trying to do a third root, so if you've got one of these, and it's the same on the pink ones, if anyone's rocking the pink ones, same with you guys too. Let me show you this. Look up here for a sec. Look up here. If I want to do a third root, I need to type in the number 3 to start. Then I need to find myself a button that's got an X and a radical on it. See how this radical, this root here has a little X next to it? I need to get that on my screen. So since it's not actually on the button, I need to type second and then that button. And that gets me the X with the root. And then 64. And that gave me that 4. Third root of 64. So please practice typing that into your calculator. If you're sharing a calculator with somebody right now, please make sure that everybody gets a chance to do that. What are you using for a calculator? Oh, that's the worst one. Google's. I can show you another way you can type it in. So one way to type it in is type in 3x root 64. There's another way that works also. If you type in 64 and then an exponent, do you know how to do exponents on yours? 64 and the exponent, and then in parentheses for the exponent, 1/3. So if it was a third root, you do 1/3. If it was a fourth root, you do 1/4. That works also. Try that on yours, Hayden, and see if that gets you 4. It should. Yeah. It works. Okay. So we got 4 for B. Boom. And we got our equation. Questions? You got it? Were you able to figure out how to get a third root on your calculator? Awesome. Every calculator is a little bit different. So if you're struggling to figure out what buttons to push, just get my attention. All right, I got one more for you guys. One more I'd like you to do. This one's going to be the most challenging yet, but I believe in you. You guys got this. All right, our 2 points this time around are 1, 1200. 3, 1728. Think about the strategies that we used for the last 2 problems. See what's going to help you out here. Some of you really like that table strategy, so give that a shot. See if you can figure out a way to come up with the multiplier without guess and check this time. See if you can write me an equation like I did in the last one and solve that equation. Your equation is going to have an exponent and a b in it. Give it a try. You guys got this. I'll be around to give you hints here in a moment. All right, so let's work through this together. How many copies of B am I going to have to multiply 1200 by to get me to 1728? How many copies of B am I going to have to multiply by? Guys, I need your attention. Have a seat, please. That's 2 copies of B, right? So I'm going to start writing my equation. B to the second power, that's 2 times, I'm multiplying by B twice, is equal to what? I need to figure out some multiplier that gets me in one step from 1200 to 1728. 1.44. How did you get that 1.44? Guys, I need you to stop the side conversations, please. Third number divided by the first one gave me that 1.44. Now that includes both of those B's, right? That's 2 steps, gets us 1.44. So B squared equals 1.44. And then I just need to solve that equation. How do we solve that? We take a root on both sides. What flavor of root am I going to take this time? First root, second root, third root? Second root, because it's got to match the exponent. So I'm going to do a second root here as well. And that'll cancel the square on there. So you'll just have B equals, what is the second root of 144 for those who have found it already? Is 1.2. So we have our multiplier. 1.2 is our multiplier. Any questions? That's the new part for today, is finding those multipliers. We're not done, right? We still need our starting value. How are we going to find starting value? We can work backwards. We know that the first, at 1 is 1200. We can go back. Instead of multiplying by B this time, we're going to divide by B. So I'll divide by 1.2. 1200 divided by 1.2 is 1000. Yeah, we need to divide by what the same number. Yeah, we need to divide by the same number. All right. Some of you guys like shortcuts. Let me show you a shortcut for this. If you were able to come up with this equation on your own, look up here. If you weren't and you're not feeling super confident about this, then feel free to ignore me right now, but I want to show how we can do this without a table. This is my original problem, okay? You guys looking up here? Those of you who got this problem on their own? When I look at this original problem, when I look at these numbers, I can tell you right away how many steps it's going to take me to get from that first point to that second point. The first point has an x value of 1, second point has an x value of 2. That's 2 steps, agreed? That means I'm going to have to multiply B by B twice to get from 1200 to 1728. Then I would figure out what's my multiplier to get me from 1200 to 1728. So I type into my calculator 1728 divided by 12, and that would give me my 1.44. And then I could just go ahead and find my multiplier, take a second root on both sides to find my multiplier. So we don't really have to make the table. The table makes it easier for me to see what's going on, but we don't really need the table. So it definitely, you can do it in less work if you just kind of look at the numbers, look at your X and your Y coordinates in each of these. All right, folks, we got a bit of time for you to get started on our next assignment. If you haven't already updated your packets, please make sure you're up to date here. 96, 97, 99, and 101. I'll bring it to you. Here you go.